Good day, everyone. Here is my viewpoint about the study of science, technology, and the society. In this case, as a positioner, I write this the case of youth, technology, and the preservation of biodiversity. Human activities are disturbing both the structure and functions of ecosystems and altering native biodiversity. A major process affecting infectious disease reservoirs and transmission include deforestation, land use change, water management, and other through dam construction, irrigation, uncontrolled urbanization or urban sprawl, resistance of pesticide chemicals used to control certain disease vectors, climate variability and change, migration and international travel and trade, and accidental or intentional human introduction of pathogens. Land degradation has reduced the productivity of 20% of the global land surface up to $577 billion US in annual global crops are at risk from pollinator loss and 100 to 300 million people are at increased risk of floods and hurricanes because of loss of coastal habitats and protection. In 2015, 33% of marine fish stocks were being harvested at unsustainable levels and 60% were maximally sustainably fished, with just 7% harvested at levels lower than what can be sustainable fished. Plastic pollution has increased tenfold since 1980 to 300 to 40 million tons of heavy metals, solvents, toxic sludge and other waste from industrial facilities are dumped annually into the world's waters, and fertilizers entering coastal ecosystem have produced more than 400 ocean dead zones, totaling more than 245,000 kilometers square, or 591 to 595, a combined area greater than that of the United Kingdom. And the negative trends in nature will continue to 2050 and beyond it. All of the policy scenarios explored in the report, except those that include transformative change due to the project impacts of increasingly land use change, exploitation of organisms and climate change, although with significant differences between regions. Global targets and policy scenarios, past and ongoing rapid declines in biodiversity, ecosystem functions, and many of nature's contributions to people mean that most international societal and environmental goals, such as those embodied in the such as those embodied in the Aichi biodiversity targets and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development will not be achieved based on current trajectories. The authors of the report examined 6 policy scenarios, very different basket of clustered policy options and approaches, including regional competition, business as usual, and global sustainability, projecting the likely impacts on biodiversity and nature's contributions to people of these pathways by 2050. They include that, except in scenarios that include transformative change, the negative trends in nature ecosystem functions, and in many of nature's contributions to people will continue to 2050 and beyond due to the projected impacts of increasing land and sea use change, exploitation of organisms, and climate change. And now the Sustainable Development Goals must achieve biodiversity targets for 2020 likely to be missed 2022 of 44. Assets targets under the Sustainability Development Goals related to poverty, hunger, health, water, cities, climate, ocean and land are being undermined by substantial negative trends in nature and its contributions to people. 72% of local indicators in nature developed and used by indigenous peoples and local communities that shows negative trends. And 4, the number of ACHI targets where good progress has been made on certain components with moderate progress on some components of other 7 targets, poor progress on all components of 6 targets, and insufficient information to assess progress on some or all components of the remaining 3 targets. IPBES or IPBES partner comments that this essential report reminds each of us of the obvious truth. The present generations have the responsibility to bequeath to future generations a planet that is not irreversibly damaged by human activity. Our local, indigenous, and scientific knowledge are proving that we have solutions and so no more excuses. We must live on Earth differently. And also the UNESCO is committed to promoting respect of the living and of its diversity as ecological solidarity with other living species, and to establish new equitable and global lines of partnership and intergenerational solidarity for the perpetuation of humankind. To better understand and more importantly, to address the main causes of damage to the biodiversity and nature's contributions to people, we need to understand the history and global interconnection of complex demographic and economic indirect drivers of change, as well as the social values that underpin them, said Professor Bondesio. And also, key indirect drivers include increased population and per capita consumption, technological innovation, which in some cases has lowered and in other cases increased the damage to nature, and critically issues of governance and accountability of pattern that emerge is one of global interconnectivity and telecoupling, with resource extraction and production often occurring in one part of the world to satisfy the needs of distant consumers in other regions. That's all.